The Fed's just tossing around a little bit more confusion to the markets today. It is Wednesday, May the 22nd, and today we got the minutes from the Federal Reserve's meeting that just took place on April 30th and May 1st. And while coming out of that meeting, the tone from the committee was relatively dovish, or at least that's what the markets had taken their statement as. But when we get, usually a couple weeks later, we'll get the actual official minutes from the meeting, and we get a lot more detail about what was actually discussed. And when you read these minutes or go through some of these things, this is not a dovish Federal Reserve. In fact, quite a few of these comments has suggested that they may be willing to raise interest rates again this year. So I'm just going to, instead of read the entire minutes for you, which is many, many pages long, I'm going to go through just a couple of the highlights. There were several officials that expressed uncertainty about the degree to which the Fed policy is actually restraining the economy, meaning that we've talked about financial conditions are actually still very easy. So it's not constraining the economy with all of these rate hikes in the manner that they would have anticipated. That means that's why inflation isn't coming down as quickly as they would like. They no longer They take longer than they previously, anticipated for them to get that confidence that inflation is coming to 2%. And some had expressed the willingness to raise rates if they needed to. Just a couple other ones, they're worried inflation's too stubborn to justify a rate cut. There's this disinflation period that may take longer than expected. And then the other thing that's interesting, aside from just talking about interest rates, was that some of the Fed officials would have supported keeping that balance sheet reduction plan in place. So that's where they had a significant amount of treasuries that they were letting roll off their balance sheet, and they did end up reducing it at the meeting. But there were several officials who fought back on that. What are we getting out of this? The markets didn't like it. That's not surprising. The markets have been hitting record highs with the anticipation that everything is butterflies and roses out there. And unfortunately, it is not. The Federal Reserve has once again given us some conflicting information. Markets don't like that. They want transparency out of the Federal Reserve. So we think that this is another reason we're going to see some volatility throughout the summer. The expectation is for rate cuts in September. That's what the futures market's pricing in. We've told you that we think that there's a pretty good likelihood that they may have to stay on hold for the remainder of this year because inflation is just kind of stuck here, and they need a lot more evidence that it's getting to that 2% target before they can cut rates. The only thing that would really change that is if we get a dramatic decline, rapid decline in economic growth. We are seeing some weakness from the consumer. That is concerning, but the rest of the economy is just kind of trudging along here. So we'll be back with some more economic data for you. There's some housing information we'll come back with tomorrow. And that's all we have today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to podcast@verdens.com. Thank you.